Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eastern Current. I'm Billy Thorpe. I would say this is Judson Brock sitting in front of me, but for some reason, every time we go live on Facebook, his camera cuts off. So, dude, you're going to have to mess with that a little bit. I'm just going to get to my main cam. So excited that you guys are joining us. People are just jumping on right quick, so appreciate the support. Appreciate you jumping on. Got an exciting show. This is episode 8, Judson. Can still hear you. We'll just wait for your
What's going on
to jump back on. Dude, every time it's some weird glitch.
I'm starting to kind of enjoy it, I think, a little bit.
I know, man.
Something to look forward to.
It's like, will this work, dude?
No matter what we do.
And here's the funny part. I tested this like 100 times this week, no joke, on a different Facebook page. Didn't test it on our Eastern Current page because I didn't want people to jump on thinking we're going live. And then, lo and behold, it doesn't work. So we will see if Judson's camera is going to join us again. Let's go back here and see if I can get him going here. See if we can get him on.
This is just the struggle of shooting a live show as opposed to just a normal podcast.
Yeah,
because you never know what's going to happen.
Normal podcasts are easy. So yeah, man, we'll work on that. We'll continue to work on it. But for everyone watching and viewing, super excited that you've joined us. We got a great show. We got Jot Owens, local legend here in Wilmington. Been fishing this area of Wrightsville Beach basically his whole life. I mean, in his whole life, he's been fishing this area. So we're going to be talking about bull reds. We're going to talk about cobia fishing. He's brought some goodies with him to show us. So he is in studio with us as we are working on technical stuff. So if you are watching live, be sure to comment, because anybody that comments is going to be entered to win at the end of the show. We're going to pick a random person to win some AFCO gear, or some AFCO gear. I believe we got some gear over there, and then also we'll be giving away our catch of the week, which has already been chosen. So Judson, what's going on, man? What's the fishing report look like? And you can't see him. I'm going to work on that while he tells us the fishing report, and hoping this thing turns out good.
You can't see me, but I can see all of you. I'm just kidding. I can't. So the fishing's been pretty good, I would say, for everyone across the board. This cooler weather has got everybody thinking about fall, and I think the fish are thinking the same thing. But red fishing's been really good. The topwater action for trout and redfish, for me and a lot of other people I know, has been really good. I know the ocean fishing's been great for flounder this past week, and
absolutely
a bunch of other good inshore or nearshore fishing going on.
Just brought Jot on early because our camera's malfunctioning. So.
What's up, Jot?
Welcome to the show, Jot. Sorry we couldn't do this more professional, but hey, thank you for being on. So yeah, go ahead, man. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But yeah, it's like a little spurt of early fall fishing. What do you think? How do you think the fishing's been the past week or so?
I saw a big change when the front came through. Right before the front, it was tough. The bait was showing up good, but all of a sudden, it's places that hadn't been catching redfish started catching redfish.
Yeah.
Places I've been catching flounder got a little better. Some bigger fish showed up. Some bigger flounder in the last couple weeks have definitely been showing up. I've definitely seen an increase in size, especially inshore.
Yeah.
This tournament this weekend, a 7-pounder this weekend. The post tournament was third place.
That's incredible.
So nice fish. Good to see. It's that time of year the bait's running, but water temperature came down a few degrees, and bam, fish started to really move around.
For sure, and more aggressive too.
Oh, absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah. There were some days dropping docks with artificials where it hit the bottom, lift at one time, and get a hook up. Not have to finesse them.
That's
was
awesome.
fun.
Not have to work through the pinfish because they're beating them there.
Yeah, they came right real quick next, but yeah, it wasn't too bad.
I like it. But yeah, the inshore and nearshore fishing has been good. I think the offshore bite, that warmer water temperature is a little blended, with all this warmer weather, and fishing's still been great out there. But some guys are doing great some days, and other guys not as well. But it's been good all across the board for the most part. But yeah, so fishing's been great. Billy, I'm going to bring it back to you for the sponsor shout out.
Dude, I'm working hard. Oh man, now my camera's like being crazy. I'm going to go to my computer camera. Dude,
I like it.
I think we had like a piece of USB malfunction or something. I have no idea.
That's all right. They can hear us, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, so if you guys are watching, sorry for... Dude, I'm telling you, we've troubleshot. So now you guys just get the fat chin Bill.
This is like back to day one.
Yeah.
The computer camera, the phone camera.
Oh yeah, man. This is like going back 8 episodes ago. By the way, we are on episode 8, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, just want to give our sponsors just a quick shout out. If I can't even bring that up. My computer, I guess, has a mind of its own. So we'll get through this episode. But Sea Strike, or not Sea Strike. Sea Strike's going to be next on our list. They're going to be coming in soon. But we have Ice Strike Fishing, which has been huge supporters of the show. Actually got a picture this week of a giant flounder from a person who did really well on some Ice Strike gear, so that was awesome. So we got Ice Strike, we have Marsh Wear and AFCO, big supporters of the show. We're actually going to be giving away. I'll show you this awesome shirt. We're going to be giving away this shirt for Catch of the Week, as you guys can see. And this is a little bit thicker of a shirt, so it's going to be a good time for that fall fishing. Just a beautiful Marshwear shirt. And so Marshwear, AFCO, those guys hook us up well. And hook you guys up well as I destroyed this set, man. This was all set up.
We just need to take a deep breath real quick. And
I know, man. Just let it do its thing. So anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know that you are watching. And we will interact as possible with the comments here. Which actually, man, you got a lot of fans already on the show. So
I know this is blowing up.
Yeah, pretty good. So we still working on some technical difficulties, but we want to just thank all of our sponsors, and then we have Judson Brock with his fishing company Eastern Angling that will take you out and do some fishing with you. My company Thorpe Creative will print your t-shirts, your hats, your hoodies, all that kind of stuff. So reach out to us. And so I'm going to throw it back to you, Judson. We got all kinds of technical stuff going on. So I'm going to let you guys hold it down. We'll do Catch of the Week just really quick while I'm still on this camera. And then I'm going to let these guys talk what you came here to listen to, which is about fishing. And I'm going to work on some tech nerd stuff and trying to get this back on the horse here. So first of all, Catch of the Week is going to... Oh, man, they won't even work now. Bub White. So at Bub William White on Instagram is our Catch of the Week. And he caught a really nice a red drum, so we figured that out.
On topwater. Topwater frog, skitterwalk, I think it was.
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, this is permanently stuck on my face, unfortunately, for all you guys. So I am going to try to fix it as quick as possible, but you guys can go ahead and start talking some interviewing stuff over there.
So we were talking about earlier kind of how that temperature's cooled off. It's funny, too, because it's like I feel like every July, late July, early August, that the temperature will drop a little bit. And you're like, oh, fall is here. And then you've still got the rest of August where it's scorching hot.
August. And we needed it. I mean, temperatures have been above normal. Lack of rain, which I won't complain about after last year. I said, beginning of this year that I don't mind a little bit of drought. It does help fishing.
It does.
And so, yeah, no, I agree. I loved when the weatherman said last week an unseasonably cold system coming through. I was like, yes,
for sure. I've loved it, and it seemed like it's the cooler temps have lingered around a little longer than they were saying it was going to, which I've enjoyed.
Started feeling that humidity a little bit today, though. It started creeping in there. It really did.
It was unmissed for sure. Well, we have a couple questions we always like to start out with. I want to learn, how did you get into fishing, Jot? Like, where did it all start?
I got into fishing. My first job when I was 13 years old. From 13 to 15, I worked in a local fish market. Old Riceville Beach Seafood, right beside the old Middle of the Island restaurant. For any of you old school locals, remember Middle of the Island restaurant? Ate many meals there. And then I started offshore commercial fishing. Day grouper, day king mackerel, some overnight king mackerel trips. A little bit of green sticking for yellow fins, a little green sticking for blue fins. Clammed, I oystered. And I found out at about age 19, 20 years old that commercial fishing was going to make me an old man. It's tough on you.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It's not an easy way to make a living. And I started to mate on some local charter boats, Fortune Hunter, Whipsaw, and many others. And I did that for a while, and then I decided it was time to start guiding, and I started running Jimmy Vass's Fortune Hunter 2. It's Jones Brothers.
Yeah.
And I did that for quite a while, and then I started running my own business, and now I've had my own business now for 12 years.
That's awesome.
So it's been a long journey. It's been a fun journey. I've learned a lot. I've learned that it's long, hot days in the water, but it's very enjoyable. I love seeing people catch fish. I love seeing people have a good time. And it's from and I say this all the time, from a customer, a child who's never caught a fish, to a customer who's caught 1,000 fish. It's still a really, really enjoyable scenario for me.
It is for sure. You say Jimmy Vass, little Jimmy, his son. This was his room for about 2 years.
Oh wow!
This office is in right now. So
wow, it's small. World of Wilmington for sure.
It is. Absolutely. It's a very small world. Well, cool. So, all right. Next question is, what's the first day that pops in your head when I'm like, what's the most epic day of fishing you've had out of Wrightsville Beach?
Oh wow!
Inshore, near shore, just anything the first thing that pops up in your head.
I'd probably say, I think the best one ever that pops in my head. Well, I did two. Number one,
two's fine.
Number one is going to be Father's Day. I can't tell you the year. I don't know. A long time ago. Me and my father went 9 for 12 cobias at the inlet one morning in
That's
2
awesome.
hours.
That is
all
awesome.
Big fish. Kept 62 and a 64 pounder we kept, and release others, and it was unbelievable. I mean, we get a fish on just as quick as we were done. I think we got to the inlet at 6, and at a little after 8, all the boats were coming out. We're leaving, and then probably another one be in 2007. The tarpon I fought for over 4 hours. That would have been the state record. I didn't kill the fish, but it was with measurements said between 210 and 235.
That's awesome. That's really
big
cool.
Fish, and I've got pictures and scales and a lot of good memories. I know the captain come in that day and helped me measure the fish and everything like that. We released it. It did swim away pretty good, but that was unbelievable. And that fish would not stop. And 2 hours in, I didn't care if it got off. I didn't care if it got off the line. I mean, I was that tired by myself.
Did he take you down the beach, or did he take you out deep?
Hit northeast, like most big fish turn northeast, and I was 7 miles off the beach. Started at the inlet at Masonville at the Jetty. I was 7 miles off the beach, 4 hours and 21 minutes later when we got it at the boat and got photos. It was epic. It was and got measurements and knew it was a big fish. But I've never seen a tarpon that big, so I didn't know if I don't want to kill a tarpon, but I was thinking 160, maybe 180 pounds.
Right.
It's
hard to tell when they get to that.
It was
size.
I mean, and if think back, you could have fit a 5-gallon bucket in this fish's mouth. I mean, round.
A true bucket mouth.
It was crazy. And so it's cool. Cool. I got some great photos of it, and I had somebody to witness it. But I went out that morning. It was 4th of July weekend. I went out that Saturday morning just to do a little fun fishing because I saw the tarpon there the night before on a full moon.
Yeah.
And I got there next morning. I was catching a few reds, and lo and behold, that baby hit. And I'll never forget that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's something so cool about just releasing that fish too.
Oh my gosh,
you could have the state record, but just having that fish beside your boat and letting it go back into the water, that's just it's cool. Yeah. It's like part of me too. I'd be so torn. I'd be like, I want to have the state record, but I want to let this big fish swim away. It's cool.
And that fishery's changed a lot. I mean, over the years for sure. So it was cool to see, and to see those fish show up every year as they do. They're definitely majestic fish.
Definitely. Well, I think we were going to talk. You good over there, Billy?
Dude.
You got it all dialed. Billy has been running around behind all these cameras.
We're back in.
There he is, Ghost Billy.
Everybody's.
I swear he's there.
I have no idea what is going on with this camera. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here I am. Perfect. Golly, man, I have no idea what
This is just the fun of a live show.
It's perfect, man. Actually, Jot came in and he said, "Hey, that's pretty cool. You guys do a live show. Like, I bet that has a bunch of stuff that happens." I'm like, "Oh no, we got it dialed in.
We got it. We're perfect."
I should not have said that.
Jot jinxed us, guys.
I swear.
No, so I do want to come back to Catch of the Week really quick.
There it is.
Just to show this picture of Bub.
It's an awesome picture.
Yeah, man, just a beautiful
kayak fish too, right?
Yeah, he's a kayak guy, man. I mean, he boats fish, kayaks fish, but a lot of people know Bub. He's a local guy as well, and school teacher. So he actually has a club at school where he teaches young guys and mentors them fishing, guys and gals, and his fishing club. So really cool thing what he's doing. So appreciate that, Bub, for sending that in. For everybody else watching the show, I guess I'm just gonna go back to your camera.
What's up? So guys, we forgot to say too, just comment throughout this show, and you'll have a chance to win a giveaway here at the end. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from, as well as if you've watched every show, just shoot us a thumbs up in the comments. If you've tuned into every live show, that we're just curious to know how many people are tuning into these shows. So we're going to jump into it. Me and Jot were talking, and we were like, what's a good topic for this time of year, and what's interesting? What are we both kind of fired up about? And Jot was like, we got to talk about the bull redfish and the cobia, the late summer, maybe early fall.
Yeah,
bull redfish and cobia.
A lot of people always think of the fall, late summer, fall fishing of the bull drum, but I catch some of the biggest cobia of the year in the fall. We catch plenty of big ones, but in the spring. But I do see a lot of bigger fish. 60s, 70s, 80s. 2 years ago, I had an 84 pounder the last week of September. And it's that, to me, it's that transition of August. You start getting into mid-September to mid-October. There's some really nice cobias that come down the beach. And the way this season was here, it was a very poor season locally. And I attribute that to the mild winter. When we have mild winters, those fish seem to dart around us or dart past us very fast. North of us was epic. Outer Banks, Virginia had an epic year. So it's not like there's less fish. They just seem to miss us when we have mild winters. But I have noticed that happens, that we usually have a decent fall. So fingers are crossed that fall fishery is going to be, there's going to be some big cobias around for sure.
I like it.
I've seen a lot of juveniles. I tagged a juvenile day, and I tagged a juvenile 3 days ago.
Nice.
Little pups that are inshore now, so that's pretty normal this time of year to see those. They're getting some tags. So if you catch cobia, big or small, keep your eyes peeled for those red tags. They're worth $100.
Awesome. I could use it.
$100, man. I'm gonna cobia.
Where'd you release the last red tag?
In Mott's channel today, close to Sea Pass Marina, actually.
I'm gonna be there tomorrow.
There's gonna be like 50 boats just swarmed.
There was a guy flounder fishing. He said, "Oh, look, I caught a cobia." I said, "Bring it over here. I'll put a tag in it." He's like, "Okay."
That's awesome. And when he said 100, he meant $100,000. That tag's worth $100,000.
There's definitely gonna be a lot of people.
Judson will be cutting that check, by the way.
Yeah, I will. I'll cut that check. It's gonna be. I'll write it on a piece of notebook paper.
Pay it off right now.
Well, we're excited about this show, and Jot he's kind of known in this area as someone who's he's a great teacher, and I've learned a lot from him, and I've got a bunch of buddies that are like, what the heck, how is Jot's catching bull redfish? Look, he's caught, like, everyone's always texting me about your Instagram stories, and Jot knows our the Wrightsville Beach fishery and the Wilmington fishery and greater Wilmington area really well, and he's got a lot of great information, and excited to kind of pick his brain a little bit. I'm not going to pick too many secrets out of there, but
no, it's all good, man. If not, I'll just tell you a lie. I'm a fisherman.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's what I'm here for.
So, speaking of bull redfish, I feel like this is a great time. I mean, people are just starting to catch them, and when you're going to go out on a morning and kind of set up for bull redfish, what are you looking for? What do you want to do? Tide wise, weather wise, kind of just the basic, this is what I want scenario wise for bull redfish.
Well, I'll keep it contained to this area because, north of us in the Pamlico Sound area, they're already seeing the fish. They start seeing a lot earlier than us. Usually late July, early August, they start to see them. I typically don't see numbers here until we get on into later September, early October.
Okay.
I will start to see some bull reds mixing in with some of those jetty reds, some of those ocean reds, some of those hard bottom reds, some of those shoal fish. You'll start seeing some bigger fish mix in. I like to run the beach in September and look for school reds because September, when that mullet run's happening, they're out there. And it's amazing how many times, almost daily, I'll be running the beach and I'll run a big red, 40-plus inch fish off the beach. Wrightsville, Figure 8, Topsail, Lee Island, Masonboro Island. So they're in there starting to show up, and then more and more start to show up. And typically I start seeing them on those hard bottoms. Yeah. And then they start getting closer to inlets as the season goes on. But my perfect day is going to be where I can, if let's say it's a 4-hour trip, I'm looking for a changing tide. Okay. The end of the rise on a high and starting of the fall, or the end of the fall and start of a rise on a low. Typically an hour or two each side of that changing tide is when those bigger reds bite better. Will they bite in the middle of a tide? Absolutely. But fishing closer to those changing tides, definitely see better bites.
Is key.
And it'll get really good right up there close to the change. And then when it goes slack, they usually cut off like a lot of fish do. They really do. They're, again, not to say you can't get a bite during the slack tide, but it usually does slow down. But if it's been a good bite on the end of that fall or the end of that rise, when it does flip over, then they'll usually start biting again pretty good.
For
if
sure.
it's been a slow bite, sometimes it'll be slow again on the other side, but they'll start to bite again usually. Yeah.
It's the redfish can be so true to that when you're fishing around structure and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, inshore, little redfish, puppy drum, slot
like
redfish.
I mean,
it is like clockwork. And like you're saying, there's those days where it doesn't seem to matter what the tide is. It doesn't matter if it's slack, but a lot of times when you look back at your day, you're like, all right, those fish are feeding, well at the last little bit of the drop or the first of the rise.
Yeah.
And
when I have a 6-8 fish bull drum day or old drum or large drum day, however you like to call them, they'll be on clock. They'll be right on schedule. But those 20, 30 fish days,
Yeah.
even in the slack tide,
they're just chilling.
It's not wide open, but you're still getting a bite.
Right, right. Well, let's go to this real quick. What is your best bull redfish day here around Wrightsville Beach?
Believe it or not, right after the hurricane last year.
I remember you were crushing them.
33 one day.
33, that's right.
30,
I remember
30,
that.
33 here. I've had some 40 and 50 fish days on the Pamlico at nighttime.
Yeah.
Bait fishing many years ago. But here, 33 during the day. And that got to, we went to one rod. Because it was was too many double hookups.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get the fish in a quick amount of time to release them as well. They're bigger fish. They do wear themselves
Certainly.
out. So we went to run one rod that day, and it would be in the rod holder less than 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
That was
enough time to take a leak and crack another beer.
Yeah, I was so tired after that day.
That's awesome.
And covered in drum slime.
That's incredible. All right, so I think what a lot of people like to know is kind of, all right, we know what to look for now. We're looking for that changing tide. Places to set up, and then we'll kind of jump into tackle. Like, what are you looking for as far as a spot to set up? And I don't want you to be like, these are my GPS coordinates. This is where you need to go sit. But when somebody, if they don't have the money to book a trip, and they're like, I'm going to get out there and try it myself. What are you looking for?
Yeah, when the fish start to show up, and I say that September range, I'm starting to see them show up, starting to mix in more and more. I'm finding them around the inlets. So I find them through the inlets right on through the fall. But they first show up, sometimes you can find them pretty good on hard bottoms.
Okay.
I have found them really good on some hard bottoms, like Johns Creek, some artificial reefs.
Yeah.
The nearshore artificial reefs from south, my main area is from South Topsail to Cape Fear. Mm-hmm. And the Marriott wreck off of Carolina Beach. Those fish will get on there good through September and early to mid-October.
Yeah.
Then we get into later October, they really seem to hone in on the inlets. Mm-hmm. On some of the changing, the bigger moons, the new moon or the full moon, some of those bigger tides, I'll find those fish a little bit into the more around the inlets. They're still on those hard bottoms, and then it will usually last till early November. And usually, I never put a spot on water temperature because every year it's a little different. But when I start to see that water temperature get into get out of the 70s and get into the 60s and stay in the 60s, not variable up and down, in and out of the 70s and 60s, those fish really start to head offshore. And by about 65 to 62 degree water constantly, it's hard to. The trout fishing's great and the drum fishing's slowing down. The big drum fishing's slowing down.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, when you're setting up on those fish, are you mostly bait fishing? Are you ever throwing artificials when you're fishing that structure and whatnot? Are you picking up more random fish when you're fishing, maybe flounder fishing or something like that?
Yeah, I do.
That was a lot of questions.
Yeah, if I'm going to just bull drum fish, I'm usually going to be bait fishing.
Okay.
But we do catch plenty out there flounder fishing on the reefs, on jigs.
Yeah.
It's typically the flounder gear or the Cobia jigs I use. Catch them all the time on that. Vertical jigging sometimes for the bigger bluefish, those 4 and 5 pound bluefish on like a big sting silver or a big Hopkins. We'll hook them on those as well. They'll eat the heck out of that stuff. It's kind of right there in their face.
Right.
But if I'm going bull drum fishing, I'm usually going to be live bait or cut bait.
Gotcha. If someone was wanting to go out there and target them on artificials, is there a color you think that they eat better? Or
no,
I always tell people just redfish aren't super picky.
They're not super picky on colors, and I say go bright because usually you're fishing a little bit deeper water, and sometimes in the fall we can get some dirty water. We get some pretty big rains in October. And I would say October is the best month for them here. I mean, day in and day out, October is the best month. And in October, we do get some big rain. And when we get that rain, that water will get stained up. So I go with a little bit brighter colors.
I like it
for sure. It doesn't matter. I go bright. I mean, they're not picky.
What is when you're bait fishing? Do you have a bait of choice, or as far as mullet, menhaden, pinfish? Or is it whatever you can get your hands on?
Number one, fresh.
Okay.
I mean, that is like I would rather use a fresh cut pinfish that I caught that day than a mullet that's been in my freezer or a menhaden that's been in my freezer. It really makes a difference. These are not scavengers. They really do like fresh stuff. That I've seen that work over and over again. Fishing on other boats that brought frozen bait, they're catching a few drum. We're catching 5 or 6 drum to their 1 drum.
Yeah,
makes a difference. And then when it comes down to the favorite bait, number one, it's probably going to be mullet, fresh mullet. Menhaden's right there too. I think menhaden works just as good. The problem is menhaden is so soft, it just falls apart quick when the pinfish, trash fish get it. Mullet's got a little more toughness to it.
A little smarter fish can stay away from the trash fish a little better. I feel like too.
And bluefish, a blue cut bluefish is good as well. And then if I'm using live bait, I like this bigger finger mullet.
Okay.
And a lot of people say, well, live bait, cut bait. What's the deal? And typically what I do is that water's got some clarity to it, no matter where I'm fishing. It's got some clarity. And when I say clarity, it can be clean green. It could be bright river water, but it could be sweet tea river water.
Right.
River, it's clear. It's just brown clear.
Right.
But if I'm in clear water, I'm usually going to tune to live bait. The water gets stained or dirty, the clarity drops down, then I'm going to change to some cut bait.
Okay.
Fresh cut bait. Yeah.
Awesome.
Did I get some Facebook questions?
Let's go into some Facebook questions.
Billy's
breaking a sweat over there.
Dude, I'm still here, boys. I'm not leaving quite yet.
We don't want you to leave, Billy.
We will see what happens, man. My goodness, I'm gonna try to bring. I have no idea what's happening still. I don't even know.
You've moved every camera twice, you know that much.
Dude, I have moved every camera.
I've been on 2 different ones here.
We're trying to get Jot's best angle on camera.
Oh my goodness! So something happens with this camera. This camera works. That camera doesn't. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just keep the camera on you because I'm asking you the questions here. So these are coming from our Facebook comments. Which once again, guys, if you're watching this. First of all, if you're watching this episode and you're still with us, thank you, because that's real support as we are struggling hard. This is a struggle bus. So this is coming from Robert. He says, when should a shock leader be used for old drum? Can you explain the proper way to rig a popping cork? So maybe two questions in there.
Yeah. Okay. So number one, shock leader. I typically don't use a shock leader when I'm old drum or big drum fishing, bait fishing. I use 80-pound mono, clear mono. As my leader and a circle hook. Typically, the leader is going to be in the 12 to 14 inch range, and I use a 9/0 Trocar AP hook. It's called a TK5. It's an all-purpose non-offset. I found that you get a lot more fish in the lip instead of deep when you use the non-offsets, and it's a smaller hook because we do catch mixed fish. There's plenty of days we're catching those big drum, and then a 26 inch dinner fish shows up.
Yeah.
And so using that smaller circle hook, I get less throat hits, but I also get those smaller fish hooked as well and don't miss them. And then as far as popping corks go, I don't do a lot of popping cork fishing. We just don't do that down here. Our fish aren't shallow enough. I have tried a few times off of Caswell Beach and Long Beach down there in the Menhaden schools in October because those fish get down there, and I have yet to catch one on popping corks. But I would like to. I've tried. But typically that chunk of bait in the back on a Carolina rig is what gets hit every time when I'm doing that. But I know that a lot of the guys and gals that fish up in the Pamlico are using a true popping cork, not a rattling cork, a cork that makes a very low pitch pop. And usually they like a big swim bait on a lighter jig head as a slow fall. And I'm guessing a 40 to 60 pound 4.0 leader. For those fish.
Yeah, I think 40 to 60. When I've gone lighter up there too. But typically I'd say 40, 50 pounds is what you want. They're not leader shy, so there's no reason to not have a nice thick leader on there. No. And a lot of times you'll hook a fish, and if he's with other fish and they're fired up, they'll eat the cork. And I see this in Louisiana a lot. The other fish will eat the cork as the one's taking it down. So having leader on both sides of that cork is important because I've had a lot of fish. Not here, but in Louisiana, in schools of fish, break me off because there's 20 fish eating that other cork.
And I tell you also, too, is not having that braid wrap around the top of that rattling cork or popping cork and pop you off. Having a piece of leader above it keeps everything straight when you cast. That makes a big difference.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
I saw that today with a topwater. or 2 days ago, tied a braid straight to it. And someone was like, I just fished braids. So I was trying it. And I kept wrapping my swivel or wrapping my hook and wrapping the split ring and whatnot.
Even if it's a short shot, it really helps in the frustration level. It really does.
It really does.
So we'll get a couple more questions here we'll hit while we're on Facebook. So once again, appreciate you guys commenting your questions for Captain Jot Owens here. So Matt Williamson, and maybe you answered this a little bit with your setup there, but he says, what hooks do you use so you don't kill fish? That's the first part of the question. And then how long can you fight a bull before they are in danger? Or how do you know if they're okay to keep fighting?
Good questions, and I speak about this a lot, even in some of my seminars as well as fishing reports. Number one is go the shorter leader. I try not to go more than 12 or 14 inches long. If I'm in a heavy current area, I feel like sometimes the heavy current you can get away with a little bit longer. On lighter currents, you can go a little bit shorter, and the reason I believe that is because it just gets pushed to the bottom, so it doesn't hurt to go a little longer. But I try to go no more than 12 to 14 inches at 80 pound. I always use a straight circle hook, as in a non-offset. If you're looking to purchase hooks, look for tournament legal circle hooks. Tournament legal circle hooks are straight, and I like a welded eye. That's just personal. I don't know if it makes any difference. And you can press the barb down. If I am fishing myself, I will press the barb down. With customers on the boat and getting slack line, I don't press the barb down because they will typically lose that fish. So I keep it, but I do go with a little bit smaller hook, a 9/0, which 9/0 in the Trocar TK5 is a pretty small 9/0. It's more of a 7/0 from another brand or something. It's a smaller hook. And I would say go in the neighborhood of, I try to keep the fight down in less than 10 minutes. I don't use anything less than 50-pound braid or 30-pound mono for my bull fishing. I'm using casting reels, these Pin Fathoms 20s, level lines, with 30-pound mono on the Fathoms on the casting reels. And on my spinning reels, I use 50-pound braid. And I use quite a bit of drag. I'm probably using in the neighborhood of, I'd say 8 to 12 pounds of drag on the 30-pound line and over 12 pounds on the 50-pound, putting it to them, getting them in. And the most important thing is getting them in fast is very important, but taking the time to get that fish, get air back in that fish, resuscitate that fish, take the time, keep them in the water. I've held fish for 15, 20 minutes that I've seen other anglers would probably just push them away. The problem is that fish pushes away, turns upside down. There's a good chance that fish is going to die. And if you're fishing an inlet area in the ocean around a reef, it's probably going to get run over by a boat. So take the time to resuscitate that fish. Hold them. If those gills are moving, they will come back and start swimming away. It may take time. I commend the anglers that take the time to really revive those fish. There's been times we've been fishing, we're taking turns. I'm holding the fish for a while, and then I'll get rods back out. I have my customers hold the fish while we're doing it, keeping their head down, keeping them upright. Try to keep their mouth into the current, so that current's going through their mouth and across the gills, not reverse, so it's backing up on their gills. And it's amazing. We've had fish 10, 15 minutes in the water, and they finally swim away fine. Yeah. And watch them. They swim down and come back up, grab onto them again, and hold on. They will make it. They'll get that air out of their belly, and they'll go on down, but take the time to do that. It's very important.
Yeah, one thing I've always recommended to people, too, about that is you don't have to have boga grips, but something to grip the lip of that fish a little bit, because a lot of times you'll be trying to release a fish in current or over the boat, and it'll slip out of your hands and you can't get to that fish, and maybe it didn't release correctly. But having a good hold on that fish, whether it's with your hands or a boga grip or something else, while you can give it that time in the water, I think is important. And
absolutely,
I'm with Jot for sure. It's definitely worth taking that time to let that fish swim away. They're going to make our baby redfish. They're going to become our next big redfish. So
it's so important. They're such slow growers. I'm not going to quote how old they are. There's so many different studies out there, but we know they get old.
Yeah,
and
old drum.
And so
is there like a window of age that they've kind of?
Yeah, it depends on what part of the country they are, what they're eating and stuff like that. But a 40-inch drum typically is over 20 years old. Wow. That's a safe bet, and even older. So they get up to about 16 inches their first year, and they slow right down.
Wow.
And they don't become sexually mature to, on average, around 29 to 30 inches long.
Wow.
So you're talking about a fish that's got some age on it before it's even sexually mature. So that's why we have the limitations we have, to keep those fish smaller before they're sexually mature. But once they become sexually mature, we need to let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, commend you for taking care of the resource. I always think that's hugely important.
So. And always keep your eyes peeled for tags. I tag over slot drum, so we get a lot. We get a lot of tag returns around here. So keep your eyes peeled for those yellow tags. They're yellow dart tags in the back of them. Cut them off. There's a 1-800 number on there. Call it in. You get $5 a hat or a shirt from the state. I would recommend the hat or the shirt. It's nicer than the $5.
It's a $10 hat.
It's a $10 hat. Yeah, it's actually a pretty nice hat. Yeah.
So you actually tag those fish. That's a part of something that you actually do. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yep.
And what program is that through? Just
state. Yeah, I tag overslot drum, speckled trout, striped bass, cobia, and sharks.
Okay.
Are the fish that I tag, and active in all of them. I really like tagging cobia just because I'm really looking forward to seeing the data when it starts getting put together, where these fish are going, where they're coming from, and stuff. Especially we tag big fish and we tag juveniles. And I've tagged 2 juveniles. Tagged a juvenile today we were talking about earlier, and those juveniles. It's gonna be cool if that fish pops up somewhere in 3 years.
Yeah,
at
that's
50
cool.
or 60 pounds.
Yeah, for sure.
And for people watching or listening, like if they wanted to get involved in a program like that, I mean, I'm not here to promote like programs or whatever, but I think that's cool, man, because that's a part of, like you said, getting that data, collecting that information. So is there ways that the average Joe can get involved, or you have to be a captain? Or?
There is. They do tagging. Classes once a year.
Okay.
The best thing you do is get on DMF's website and look for the tagging classes, and they do those once a year for different species. If they have species they're looking for, then they'll say, hey, this is are you interested in this? Do you catch this fish and go from there. Most important thing is if you're going to do this, take it serious. Yeah. Don't just do it to say, hey, I tag fish, because if those tags could be put on another boat that the people are actually tagging them, that's very important, because almost all of these tagging programs come from grant money, and grants aren't easy to get. And it took a biologist and some time to write that grant out write out that grant to get it. So keep in mind that those are precious funds that are used for fish studies for the state of North Carolina, which the state never has any money, so it's nice when they get grants to do this kind of stuff for fisheries. So.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm kind of new to the area, 4 years in here, still learning a lot about the community industry, all that kind of stuff. So that I didn't know that was a thing, that you could go out there and get certified and go through some training. So anybody watching or listening, you want to do that, man? Go get that hookup. Let's see. I'll ask you a couple more questions here, just because I'm still on this Facebook thing. It says, so do you pick your mullet up with a cast net?
Yeah, cast net. And typically, what I will do is, if in the fall there's so much mullet around. I mean, now there is, and there's getting more. So
the beginning of this summer, it was tough. Though,
it was not much bait this year. I mean, you're right. It was.
It's nice to see it now.
It was nice to see you go out and throw a cast net one time and get all the mullet you want. Yeah. But yeah, typically I'm cast netting them, and the best place I found is anywhere close to low tide, a couple hours on each side of low tide is in the ICW, in the waterway. That's the highway, and once we get into September, those mullet are going to be running south, and there are days where you could blind cast and catch all the mullet you need. Yeah. Menhaden usually I find up in the estuary creeks, but there's been a very low amount of menhaden estuary creeks this year. I'm starting to see a few just in the last week, no big numbers, but it is nice to see the mullets for sure, because they work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'll ask one more question off of here, and then we can jump back into it. And then we can, several questions. Popular guy, a lot of questions for you, but we'll get to them as we go. I just want to kind of gear the conversation and get a little bit more on track. As
we're on track. You're doing great,
I don't even know where we're at in this show. I've just been running around the studio 100 miles an hour trying to make stuff work. So I think this is a great question from Ken. Once the fish has been landed, what's the best way to revive the fish? That's a great question. You hook up on this monster fish, what's my next step to put it back in the water and make sure it's safe?
Couple important things is, number one, stay away from their gills. I know you want to take a photo of this fish, and the longer the fish stays in the water, the better. But if you want to take photos, that's fine. But you want to hold them broad. You want to cradle their whole body. You don't want to two-hand them or one-hand them. You want to rub the whole body. You can grab them in their mouth, but just stay away from the gills. And keep them, when you take that fish out of the water, have the camera ready. I see this all the time as a guide. They're fumbling around for the camera. They're trying to get the camera app open. They're trying to get the camera to come on, kind of like tonight.
Exactly. Camera issues.
And just like tonight, minus the bull red.
That's right, yeah. But have the camera ready. Have a designated photo taker who's going to take it. And for me, it's nice because I'm a guide, so I can kind of be the referee.
Right.
And I'm holding the fish. I'm holding onto that fish's tail, holding their head in the water, supporting them, letting them breathe. I get them to the front of the boat. They sit down. Very rarely do I want my customers to stand up and hold a 40-plus inch fish. Because after about 43, 44 inches, they're about an inch a pound. That's that 40-plus inch deal usually gets, especially 45 inches up, 45-inch fish, about 45 pounds. So I will have it ready to bring to them.
Can you demonstrate with Sharky right there beside him? That pillow is in your shot.
Yeah. So
that's perfect.
We're going to cradle them like this and stay away from their mouth and their gills. Okay.
So act like that's a shark.
That's right. Just like this.
That's how you cradle a great white.
That's right. You don't want to do anything like this, or this. No one hand. So. But cradle that fish and be ready to take the photo. I get my customers to sit down just so they won't fall, because if they fall, it's because the fish is going to go nose first into the deck.
Yeah.
So cradle it and quick photos and get them back in the water. And like I was talking about earlier, keep their noses into the current. I like to hold on under their mouth, under their head and their mouth and their tail, and point them into the current and hold them until they swim away on their own. And I'll even let them kick a few times to make sure they're ready.
Fight you a little bit.
Yeah, fight me a little bit. And then when they're fighting a little bit, I know they have control. And then watch them. And there's been plenty of times where I have pulled my anchor and hooked from my anchor and gone and retrieved a fish that went a little ways, turned upside down, and was floating. Or watch them. And sometimes they'll pop the water and go again.
Yeah.
But just make sure that fish swims away on its own. It's the most important thing. And it will take some time. There's been, like we were talking about earlier, 15 minutes plus. Sometimes it takes some time to get their bearing. They're big fish. Heavier tackle, get them in quicker, and take the time to revive them.
Definitely. And one thing I always say too is if you don't want a picture, keep them in the water. Unhook them in the water. If you're not taking a picture, just leave them down there and pop them off and let them swim off. It's definitely better for them.
Who's not taking a picture of a 48-inch red drum? That's what I want to know.
John doesn't need. He's catching so many. He doesn't need many pictures anymore.
I have to say I do appreciate the days after the 6th or 7th one. You want a photo? No, we got photos.
Yeah, those are good days.
I'll like snip one in the water, the fish coming up or something for me, and then the customer's like, "Let's just catch another one." Okay.
Yeah, and you're like, "You don't want photos? Come on."
I guess when you're catching that many, it's like just turn on the video camera. Let's just make
That's when you
YouTube
strap
video.
the GoPro to your head and just roll with it.
Let's go, yeah.
So, well, yeah, these are such great questions. Keep them coming. Jot's just got such good information, and this is just a great topic. One that I saw, and we had kind of jumped into the redfish thing too. And we're supposed to be talking about cobia, but there's so much, traction with redfish right now and bull redfish with the time of year we've got. But it was saying, oh gosh, now I lost it.
Well, dude, so while you're looking for that,
Yeah,
Cliff,
go for it.
who is a big fan of our show, we're talking about size and how fast they grow and how slow they grow. So he says he caught a tagged South Carolina redfish in February in Pawleys Island. It had been released in Wenya Bay in Georgetown 13 months prior and had grown from 17.8 inches to 24 inches.
Yep. Yeah.
So in 13 months.
Yeah, and that's the big growing area from that.
Yeah.
That 14 to about 20 some inches is a big growing time, but usually in that mid 20s,
they start to slow. So about that time, that fish is going to start slowing down.
They start slowing down, and the older they get, it seems like it slows down even more.
Okay. Hey, here's Ken. He said the biggest drum he caught was with you on a charter. It was his I think it's his birthday for his wife's and his birthday.
Yep.
So maybe it's a.
Does it remember how many inches it was?
Yeah, Ken. Let's brag a little bit. How big was that fish? You can add to it.
That's right.
We'll wait on.
You can add 3 inches to it.
You can add 3 inches to it. We're gonna add 3 inches anyway. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure he'll respond when he hears that. It's probably a little delayed to get up with him. So anyway, Justin, go ahead, man.
Yeah. So the question was, what conditions are you looking for when fishing for fall cobia and redfish? And you jumped into the redfish thing. Does it change much for the cobia? Or are you still looking for that current or that tide switch? And
yeah, I mean, tide switch is good. There's to me, there's two cobia scenarios. There's fishing around the inlets and the artificial reefs, kind of like the drum, or there's sight fishing. Mm-hmm. If the water is good and clear, and we have a sunny day with not a lot of cloud cover, that's the day I'm gonna go looking for fish.
Yeah.
Now we don't. I would say this is just a throwing it out there number, but I generally say that all the cobia fishing I've done in my life, I keep good numbers. Is we see about 20% of the fish that we see versus about 80% of fish in the spring.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, essentially, if I had a really slow year and I caught 10 cobia, that year I probably caught 2 of them in the fall and 8 of them in the spring.
Yeah.
And then times it from there. I mean, it just comes out to be about 20% of my numbers are in the fall. But some of the biggest fish I see of the year
are in the fall.
And I don't know why, but are bigger. Those 70s and 80s. My only 2 fish on my boat over 80 pounds has been an 84 and an 86, and they were both in late September, early October.
That's awesome.
One was late September, one was early October. Plenties of 40, 50, 60s, up to 70s in the spring. And don't get me wrong, you still catch big cobia in the spring. We hear about the 100-pounders. But it seems like the fish I pick up in the fall are big fish.
Yeah.
It's either little baby juveniles, like we're seeing in shore now, or it's jumbos in the fall.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna look up and down the beach for free swimming fish, especially bait schools. They like to be on those bait schools as well. Floating debris, channel markers, anything's going to hold them up, just like in the spring. And then if the water is stained or cloudy, then I'm going to set up around the inlets and fish around the inlets, just like I do in the spring.
Gotcha. Is anything changed bait wise? Are you fishing the same baits for the most part when you're fishing cobia in the fall?
My go-to is a live menhaden. If I can get one. So, this year especially, it's been very tough.
Yeah.
I've only had menhaden on my boat. Man, a few times. One of them was a couple of days ago when we had a school that was came by off the beach, and I mean, first one I'd seen, of course, it's gone the next day. It was moving fast. Menhaden
Heading
number
north or
one,
south?
Heading
Menhaden.
north hard.
That's what I saw the other day too.
Yeah, and I mean like heading like I couldn't stay on them. They're moving so fast. Like what is their deal? You know. But caught a few that day. Menhaden number one. I'd say next would be a good cob mullet, and I say a cob mullet is that 5 to 8 inch mullet.
Yeah.
Not too big, not too small, not too big and too fast to get away from a cobia.
Yeah.
And not too small, they would ignore it. And then spots and croakers. Bluefish are good. The problem is the bluefish is they tangle up Carolina rigs so bad.
Oh yeah.
And then when they die, Mr. Stingray finds them. And then we're on a 20-minute to an hour fight with a 50-pound plus stingray. Bluefish just seem to do that. I'll use them, but my go-tos are usually going to be those mullet.
Okay. Here's a question that I think is a good one to answer. So, how do you know that you've hooked a bull redfish? Because you said you're going to fight a fish, and I agree, for probably no more than 10 minutes. I feel like a lot of people, they go out there and fish on the jetty, and they don't want to give up on that fish that might be a redfish. But is there any distinction to like, all right, I'm hooked up to a stingray, or I'm hooked up to a shark? Like, what is there anything that you know right away? All right, that's a redfish that I've hooked.
Redfish is going to be a lot of downward pull and a lot of big head shake.
Yeah.
I mean, the rod's going to shake, like the whole rod's going to shake in your hand when they shake their head. And the bigger the fish, the slower the shake, but you're going to get that head shake. If it's a stingray, there's going to be no head shake. It's just going to be straight line pulling, just pulling line off. No, if you've done it as long as I've done it, I can tell you within 4 or 5 minutes or less, it's a ray, it's a drum.
Yeah.
Cobia, hook a cobia, the note of cobia, most larger cobia, keeper-sized cobias, will come to the surface when you first hook them.
Yeah.
You first hook them up, they come to the surface, they don't fight much, they shake their head a little bit, you see them, and that's game on. You got a cobia on, which is great for cobia because they come to the top and you got a cobia.
Right.
Rays stay down and pull. Biggest deal is drum is that big head shake. Very aggressive, big head shake. And I mean, if you catch one nice sized drum, one large drum, you will know every time after that when you hook one, because that head shake. I called earlier this year, Father's Day. Me and my father went fishing off the beach jigging for flounders, and we caught a couple just over slot reds. And I hooked them, and I didn't expect to catch reds 5 miles off the beach. We do sometimes, especially late summer and late to midsummer. And I hooked it, and I told my dad, I was like, I know this is weird, but I think it's a drum. And it was a 30-inch drum. Caught 5 of them.
That's awesome.
Just vertical jigging for the flounder. But you don't even when you don't expect it, because you've done it enough, you go, you know that feel. That head shake is it's a drum head shake. Nothing else does that.
Yeah, for sure.
And how about versus a shark? I actually had that question, and somebody asked it in the comments.
Oh, really?
So I was like, all right, so
sharks will be real random in their movement. Typically, they will change directions very fast, and they're going to pull faster than a drum or a cobia. They have a tendency to turn and change directions. You'll first hook them, and they'll be kind of dead weight, and then all of a sudden they'll just take off one direction real hard, and then all of a sudden you'll be reeling slackline like they got off, and then all of a sudden they catch back up. They constantly change directions. So that's how I know shark typically. Yeah. Most of the sharks I'm dealing with are smaller. What we call them white dotters, or their Atlantic sharp nose. We do hook some bigger sharks from time to time, but most of the time, if they're bigger ones using the mono leaders for the drum or for the cobia, when you come back with no hook,
quick.
You know you had it 100%. It was a shark,
definitely,
a bigger shark.
Definitely. It's the redfish too. They make a pretty good run, but they're not making as long of a run as a good sized shark.
That first run's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of give and take and head shake.
Definitely. You got any more good Facebook questions up there, Billy? You want me to jump into?
Yeah. So here's a question from Matt. Another question from Matt Williamson. Thanks, Matt, for submitting so many questions here. He says, do you ever chum for cobia?
Good question. I rarely chum for cobia because we have so many stingrays and sharks. Stingrays more than sharks is what bothers me. But I just don't do it very much. If I'm out over a reef in the ocean in the summertime doing the general fun fishing day of jigging for flounders, playing with barracudas, I will put out a chum bag because it will bring cobias, it will bring jacks, it will bring sharks. If I'm just fun fishing, I have some clients on the boat that just they want to get the line tugged on hard. They want to feel something big, pull out line. They just want that fight. I'm gonna put some chum out. But day in and day out, if I'm trying to target cobia, I feel like I spend more time dealing with rays and sharks, especially rays, when I chum for them. Generally speaking.
Yeah, and we posted a picture. I don't know who shared it with us, but somebody posted a picture of a cobia not too long ago, and it was like full of rays.
Oh yeah, my buddy sent that to me.
They do love rays, and if I could find small stingrays to use for bait, that 64-pounder last spring, not this spring, spring before, I had 9 pancake-sized stingrays.
Wow.
And 2 porcupine fish. Talk about heartburn. Stingrays and porcupine fish. And I found one small stingray stinger broken off in the rib cage of that fish.
Really?
Good.
I mean, it was grown in.
And how big was that fish you said?
64. It was a good fish.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
had 8 little pancake, different stages of decomposition, breakdown.
Yeah.
And then 2 porcupine fishes that were just, I mean, they were just.
You start a stingray farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Selling for $10 a pop at Intercoastal Angler.
Hey, I'll tell you something funny today. That little cobia we tagged today coughed up a little flounder.
Did it really?
Yeah, about 2 inches long.
Got to start them young.
I went, wow, look, a flounder.
That's super cool. I caught one up in the Chesapeake last summer that had 18 just mantis shrimp. All it had was mantis shrimp in its stomach.
Wow.
18 mantis shrimp, nothing else.
That's more heartburn. I mean, they're eating rough stuff, man.
They really are. They're opportunistic feeders. They're going to eat but yeah, I would say that menhaden and mullet, that's important. So let's talk, unless Billy's got any more questions he wants to jump into. I saw him smiling over a little bit. I don't know if he read a good one.
Oh, no. Yeah, so many good ones. No, I was going to tell Robert Carpenter, he's checking. He said you guys should post on YouTube. So that brings up a good point. We do have a YouTube channel. It is just called Eastern Current, so you guys can check them out on there. He said he just subscribed, so the rest of you guys should do that as well.
Go subscribe. It does help us out.
Just pull up another tab. Don't click off this one. Just pull up another one. It does help us out. We do have a podcast. We didn't cover any of that, so do have a podcast that you can listen to as well. Just go on iTunes. iTunes is our #1 performing podcast right now platform, so go on there and just rate us and help us out. Help us get the word out. Help us keep bringing on guys like Jot here, man, that are just a wealth of information. Someone referred to you as the encyclopedia of fishing. So that's
awesome.
I don't know if you can get any better than that.
I think they were talking about me.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Jot or Judd?
No, it was Jot.
It's Joy.
It's
Joy. It's back.
And June. I'm June.
And I'm Dewey. That's what I call a lot of people for my day job, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name, Dewey?" I'm like, "Billy," but okay, I'll go with Dewey.
Billy's that's a hard one to mess up, man.
Yeah, well, that good old southern accent. So let's see if we got any more here. I don't think so, Judson. So if you got some more questions, man, we got a few more minutes here. We got about 8 minutes or so left, so we can make the best of it. Once again, I have no idea where are we at in the process, so have fun.
Billy's over there taking notes, doing all the computers, doing the camera switching, everything. So he's pretty busy. I think the other most important thing we need to talk about is rigs. And so, like, how are you rigging up?
Yeah,
like, what's your weight scenario? Weight scenario. That's not even a real thing. Well,
what weight am I using? Yeah. Well, I'll start with the Cobia. I'm a live bait guy.
Yeah.
I will throw a jig to a Cobia if I have to, as in I don't have bait on the boat. And there are those days it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I keep a wet box container, one of the Plano wet bait containers, full of the gulp on the boat, so I don't have to open up a pack. And then they don't dry out. Also, it keeps it contained a little better from spillage and smellage.
Have you ever spilled the whole container on you?
I didn't. A customer did. I wanted to cry. Luckily, it landed in the boat, but then the cleanup was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But so I keep a wet box on there, and then I'll keep packs of gulp like this, just the packs on the boat. And then I will open those up and drop them into that box as I need them. And what I found, there's a few baits like the curly grub, the Berkeley Gulp curly grub and 5-inch that I'm using for flounder, cobia, and some big drum fishing.
Yeah.
Mostly cobia and flounder. And I will have a jig on the boat. I always have a jig ready. Always have a jig in my console in case that cobia shows up. If I'm targeting cobia, if I'm going on a cobia trip, I'm going to have a live bait on the boat. Okay. Like if it's a cobia trip. But as we know, cobia, they show up randomly. All the flounder fishing I do in the ocean, they swim with the boat all the time from 16 inches long to 60 pounds. So having a jig ready is always good to go. If I'm flounder fishing, the jig's already tied on. Ounce and a half, 2 ounce bucktail. This is one of my favorites right here, the Fusion bucktail. Sorry.
You're good.
So I really like that one. It's got a good keeper in it. You notice it's got a jigging eye and it's got a front eye. This is the eye on the top that I'd use for jigging for like flounders. And then I like to use a front eye for the cobia, so when you pull it through the water, it doesn't sink as quickly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those fish are on the surface. And I will always, always, always put some kind of trailer on there. For me, it's going to be a 5 or 6 inch Berkeley Gulp grub. That's what I will cast them if I see sight fishing for them. If not, I will use a 6 to 8 foot of 80-pound mono. If you want to use fluoro, you can. The reason I don't use fluoro is because 80-pound fluoro, the amount that I use, I would go broke. Even with partners in the industry, I go through a lot of 80-pound mono with drum rigs and Cobia rigs and stuff like that. So I use mono for that. They don't seem to carry, and I just tie a Trocar, the same hook, Trocar TK5 AP circle hook, straight circle hook, on there, and go through the nose of a Menhaden or through the lip of a mullet or through the nose of a spot, even a pinfish, if it's whatever I have. And when I see the fish, toss it to them. That's my how I prefer to do it. I get more takes that way. I get less looks and more takes. Especially with Cobia, that can be the easiest fish in the world to catch, or sometimes the hardest fish in the world to catch.
I would agree.
Live bait seems to really help me cut on that. Will they hit jigs? Absolutely. I always have them on the boat. You got to have them. You can't. I've caught plenty of fish on jigs, but I'm a live bait guy. So then bottom fishing around reefs or the inlets. My rig's going to be a big Carolina rig, and if I'm Cobia fishing, I'm going to be using a 3 to 4 foot long leader, 80-pound mono, that 9/0 Trocar circle hook. 50 to 100 pound swivel. I go a little big on the swivels, just so I don't have to worry about, as far as any slip goes or anything like that. You don't have to worry about anything failing. And then a 2 to 4 ounce egg sinker as my sinker. I'm fishing current, so I'm gonna fish behind the boat. So I'm not worried about a bank sinker or a pyramid for it to drag. I'm gonna fish behind the boat in the current. So wherever the sinker is, it's not gonna. If it rolls around, it's fine. It's gonna be in the current.
You're not trying to get it to hold out beside the boat.
No. If I want to fish over there, I'm going to go anchor over there.
Yeah.
I'm going to fish behind the boat, one short, one long typically. And I will have a free line bait out sometimes, just a light line on that same casting rig with the shot of mono and the circle hook, but boat traffic. If boat traffic's real bad around me, then I'm not going to have that. I want to have that ready in the live well with the live bait, so if a fish swims up to the boat, I can pitch to them. And that's my general setup, 2 to 4 ounces egg sinker. And how much to use? As much as you need, but as least you can get away with. My go-to is about 3 ounces. 3 and 4 ounces mostly. But if you don't need more than that, when you go lighter with fishing equipment, you get more bites. And a lot of people say, well, if you go lighter, you're going to lose fish. The problem is you have to get a bite first. And I would rather take a chance at getting a bite and then take the chance of losing that fish than not getting the bite at all. So going a little lighter definitely helps. They don't seem to be leader shy, but it does. I would say always go the clear mono. Don't go with a high vis for sure. Drum fishing, same rig, just shorter leader, 12 to 14 inches. And with drum fishing, I want that bait to stay still, live or cut bait. And I will typically almost always use a 4 ounce egg sinker when I'm big drum, bull drum fishing, for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of gold bait, somebody on here says, hey, when did those new colors come out?
They are out. They are shipping now. I actually brought a couple of colors that I use for flounder, but I think are going to be great for Cobia casting. There is curried chicken.
I like that. It's making me a little hungry too.
Yeah.
Curried chicken.
I caught some flounder on those today. Today was the first day I got these out.
If you guys want to see Judson eat one of these live on camera, just hit the share button.
And there is the new bright pink. We've had a pink shine go up. This is the new bright pink. It's gonna be great for flounder and for Cobia casting, as a trailer bait. And then this one, man, I've been excited since January when we started talking about this color, and that's the good old salmon red. Or salmon red, however you said.
Salmon.
Salmon, salmon,
Salmonoid.
Yeah,
salmon.
But that color, I caught flounder on that today. It's just the Northeast guys, the Florida guys, the Mid-Atlantic guys are getting excited about it. That color is doing great.
It's aggressive. I like it.
It is aggressive, and I mean it's bright. And for the Cobia, if you're throwing a jig, everybody says they've got their colors. I say go bright.
Yeah.
I'm typically going to use a chartreuse and white jig like that, or an all white. And then I'm going to put something totally different on the back of it. They don't care. They're eating stingrays and porcupine fish, y'all. Come on.
Right.
They're not picky. I want them to see it,
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're in an area, like the Outer Banks or the Chesapeake, where you might be getting 20 shots in a day, maybe you can get picky with color, but I want them to see my crappy cast with that one, with the jig, if I get 1 shot or 2 shots or 3 shots in a day.
And make sure you cast in front of them. Don't hit them in the head.
Right.
That does not turn into a hooked fish.
No, it doesn't. It does not.
So do you use a trailer for flounder also? Matt Beck is asking on here.
Yes, I use actually this same 2 ounce jig. Now 2 ounces for me is getting a little heavy for flounder. I like an ounce and a half for most ocean fishing, flounder fishing. But for I use the same curly grubs Berkeley gulp grubs for the flounder as I do for the cobia. The one thing I can tell you is I do use a lot of jerk shads, 5 and 6 inch jerk shads for flounder fishing, and I will not use that for cobia fishing.
Okay.
I want that tail. I want that action. They love action. They like something that's trying to get away from them. They want something swimming, and it's hard to make a jerk shad look natural swimming it through on the surface. Where with the gulp grub, anything with a big curly tail's got that big action when you're reeling it through the water, and it definitely helps.
Yeah,
definitely helps. So yeah, definitely going with the some type of curly tail grub when I'm casting to a cobia.
Wow, man, such good information. I'm going to go back and watch this and take a lot more notes.
Most definitely, or should I say, dolphinately, like last time. It's a fishing show, man. It's a good fishing fun.
Yeah, good fishing fun. That's definitely a good joke you got there.
I said it on purpose.
You did?
Oh, Cobon.
Come on.
Oh man. Well, cool. Well, Jot, is there any? We're going to kind of start to close things out a little bit. Again, if y'all have any questions, please shoot them over. We'll ask these last minute questions.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Is there any anything you want to really hit as far as if someone's getting out there this fall, this late summer, this might be their first time trying to go, maybe hopefully set up and catch a bull redfish or a cobia. What's your biggest maybe tip for them?
I say biggest tip is don't go out there with too light a tackle. For 2 reasons. You're heartbroken and possibly hurting a fish. Fighting them too long or breaking them off with tackle. I see this a lot. I'm on the water 200 plus days a year, and this is something that you see people show up with 3,000 and 4,000 size spinning reels or smaller, and they're fishing on me for these big reds. I'm using 5,500s and 6,500 spinning reels. I use a Slammer 3. It's got a large drag, 50-pound braid, and then the Fathom level lines. Go bigger tackle. Don't be afraid. I would rather you go out there with one rod, the right size tackle, than 4 or 5's too small.
Right.
You're going to get the bites if they're there. It doesn't take 3 rods. It takes 1 rod, and it really does, because when they're there, they're biting. They're there. And then the other thing is a fresh bait.
Yeah.
And people overlook that all the time, and I can't tell you stress that fresh bait really does catch more and bigger fish. And then also use a circle hook. I promise you, if you use a J hook, 90% of the fish will be in their throat, in their crusher, when it comes to drum. I've seen it. I used to do it before I knew what a circle hook was. I'd use a good old bottom fishing 084 J hook, and I didn't try to take the hook out, but I cut 20, 30 hooks out of fish's throats a day sometimes. And it's just circle hooks work, and also a lot less chance of losing that fish by using a circle hook. Because you do, the fish is in the side of the mouth, and so you do get some slack line, and the hook doesn't fall out. So it's good for the fish, and it's good for you landing a fish.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
So here's a question from James Crawford. It says, do you think redfish will ever reach game fish status in North Carolina?
That's a good question. The answer, I think, is yes. The big question is when, and I don't have an answer for that. I think eventually they will. It's a very special fishery, and I've talked to many captains of the Gulf Coast, Florida, who fish pro redfish tournaments, and we used to have a lot more pro redfish tournaments in the area, traveling tournaments. We don't have many anymore. They left for many reasons, but they have seen the fishery here, and we have a fishery that literally could rival other states. And I've heard of them quote even Louisiana and Florida if the fishery is managed correctly. We have the basis, we have the estuary. They just got to be protected. So no, I think one day they will be. The question is when.
Yeah. Gotcha. So we'll get a couple more questions here, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And I'll ask that question last. So sorry, I'm like processing as I read here. So Andrew wants to know, when do you start seeing the big schools of reds running the surf in the fall and the winter, Riceville Beach area? And then actually Matt asked a question about basically the same thing in the cobia, like when do they start running? How long can we expect them to be here, stay here? So
the cobias usually start sometime in early to mid-September. And I'm not really looking for a water temperature. I'm looking for, I see a fish or I hear, hey, somebody saw a cobia running the beach.
And you just start gassing it the whole beach trying to find it.
Then they're there. They're there. Yeah, I mean, literally, it's just listen to fishing reports. I mean, hey, social media, it can be really good. It can be really bad.
Yeah.
But, keep your eyes peeled. People start talking about them. They're here. So I start listening and looking more, keep my eyes peeled more mid-September for the cobia. And that'll usually last mid to late October. I have caught them in early November some years. I actually had a trip 3 years ago, had a citation trout and a citation cobia the same day. And that's something I can't say happens very often. No. But it was right at the beginning of the season when the nicer trout were showing up in that in that mid October. And one of my regular customers, he caught early that morning. He caught a six, just under 6 pound trout on topwater, and then that afternoon, 59-pound cobia. So I was like, this is, I don't think it's ever happened again. It's so rare. So typically they'll get out of here by late October. Milder years I have seen them in November, but it's usually accidental because by November I'm doing a lot of trout fishing. And then as far as the drum go, I will start seeing the drum work in later August, the bigger drum. But when they really get here for me is the last week or two of September. It peaks in October and will last to mid-November. If it gets cold quick, it'll end quicker. If it stays mild, I'll catch them right on through November. But as soon as that water typically starts flirting with the mid to lower 60s, those big drum head offshore.
Yeah. Okay, man, what a wealth of information. Super appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely.
I wish I had a little more time to interact with you as I was technical guy tonight. Just trying to
you got us all on camera. So
yeah, man.
It's incredible. I wish y'all could see what Billy was doing.
I didn't have any audio
it.
complaints, so that was like the only. I'm like, as long as we have audio, we're solid.
Yeah,
so. Man, appreciate you so much for coming on. And a couple people in the chat were like, man, I got to fish with this guy. So how do we do that? How do we get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to...
Best thing is you can hit me up on social media. Captain Jot Owens, Jotted Down Fishing Charters. That's it. I have my personal page and my commercial page. And Instagram is Captain _Jot _ Owens on Instagram. Our website is the whole word Captain, JOT.com.
Okay, awesome, man. We appreciate you once again for being on the show. And I mean, all the technical difficulties. Somebody has already requested we have you back on the show to talk about trout fishing later in the year. So I think we might.
I love trout fishing.
I think we'll have to do. I think we're going to try to do a little 3-part trout fishing series coming up not too far away.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I fished. I wish I could say I fished all over the world. I fished all over America, and I really like that North Carolina is broken up really seasonally. As a guide, it does get monotonous some days, but it is nice when one season turns the next, and you got the bull drum coming, and you got right after that, the trout start to bite and mix in. And
I've never even really thought about that. How lucky we are to have that.
We are. I mean, we really are. I mean, if I was a bass guide on a lake, I'd go crazy.
Yeah.
Look, another largemouth. Great. I mean, sorry. I like.
What a surprise.
Yeah, I like to bass fish, but I'll do that in the middle of wintertime.
Right.
Oh, maybe we'll switch to guard today. How about that? Let's go get goldfish.
A pick roll.
Yeah.
Oh, man, awesome. Well, Judson, I'll take it back to our camera. Oh, my goodness, there he is again. Let me see here. I'll figure this thing out.
Well, guys, like Billy was saying, sharing before the show is huge, but also just sharing this afterwards on your page, if you haven't already, for other people to click on it and check it out is huge. We want to be able to keep bringing y'all some shows and some really good information and content so y'all can learn and get out in the water and catch more fish, as well as connect with great captains like Jot and get out in the water with him and fish and hopefully catch more fish. And it's all about learning and building community. And that's why we're doing this. So please share. Please check out our podcast. Go to our online website.
Website.
You can go to our website, and that's etcurrent.com. You can grab some shirts. That helps. We got hats, shirts, all kinds of stuff over there.
Hats, hoodies for the fall coming up.
Hoodies, yeah. The first cool day, I put a hoodie on in the morning. I was so ready for it, and I was ripping that thing off in like an hour.
I couldn't believe it. I grabbed mine the other morning, and I was glad I did. It didn't stay on long. For that first run out, I was like...
It was nice.
I was like, wow, this is July.
August is still to come, guys. Don't get used to the cool weather.
August.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Billy Thorpe. This is Judson Brock. We're your host over here at Eastern Current. Reach out to us. You can see our tags there, Thorpe Creative. We print T-shirts, hats, hoodies, all that. Judson, if you want to get out on the water. It sounds like Captain Jot's schedule is going to be booked up, so Judson is there to take up any of the slack there. That I'm just messing with you guys. I probably shouldn't make jokes like that since I'm not a captain. I probably don't know what I just said.
If you want to go catch the bull redfish and the cobia around here, Jot is your guy.
And if you want to go walk the beach and throw in I'm your guy. Like, and it's free. Just come hang out with me.
He just needs some friends, you guys.
I just need friends. I've been in front of a computer. I was joking around with Judson earlier today. I'm like, dude, everybody's so tan in this room except for me, and it's not the light. I'm just pale.
You change that light to a tanning light. You'd be burning up no time.
I know, man. So awesome, Travis Overman. See you down there, man. Appreciate you tuning in. He has some good information as well on the show that he came on a couple weeks ago with us. So anyway, guys, go to our podcast, go to our Facebook, our YouTube, all that stuff. Like, share. Thank you so much for watching, and let us know what topics you want to hear about in the coming weeks, coming months, as we are pre-planning several shows in advance. We got a trout series coming up. We're going to do a kayak rigging show as well. Now that I've had all these technical difficulties, that one's going to be a really fun one to figure out how to
that
do.
one's going to be super techy.
So that's going to be super techy. But anyway, guys, really appreciate you. Once again, go like, share, do all that. It helps us continue to bring on awesome captains and awesome fishermen to the show and anglers to teach you. And if you liked this episode, go to iTunes tomorrow. It'll be up on iTunes, and rate that on iTunes. It'll really help us out.
Definitely. And just tell your friends. Word of mouth. You can use your voice.
Use your voice, yeah, absolutely. And next week we're going to be here with Richard Andrews. And do we know what subject we're going to be talking about?
Well, when we first talked to him, we were going to be talking about the striper fishing, but I think we might talk about the bull red fishing up there in the Pamlico.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, much different than ours.
Much different. So it'll be a whole new topic.
Richard is a great guy. He's a very great guy.
He is. Fishy guy and a very nice human.
Absolutely. Well, look forward to it. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday, 8 p.m., same time. And we'll be talking with Richard Andrews about bull fishing. Red drum, big grandpa drum.
Bull fishing.
Bull, whatever, dude. I'm leaving now.
Later.
See you guys.